you gonna brake too? Welcome to Irish Outlaw Garage, or should I say Irish Idiot Garage, because I must have been an idiot to think that I could get this done comfortably for power tour. I had a whole bunch of videos made, and I may show some outtakes from that about me redoing the lower suspension on this 1974 Javelin, but that turned into a whole mess because I ended up having to rebuild the entire front suspension on this 1974 AMC Javelin. I finished this side, which is an absolute, this is taking me days. Trying not to cuss here. I ended up putting all new bushings, had bolts breaking the damn frame that I had to, kind of finagle in. But I have all new bushings. Use the original springs, they're okay. I did have to use a new upper control arm. And I'm just finishing up the job. Anyway, finish this side so I know what I'm doing to show you the next side. So here we go. So I got the driver's side apart, suspension, except for the control spring, control arm, upper control arm, and the coil spring. Now, how you do that? You can either get the things that will pop off and break your jaw open and you got to go to the hospital and you still ain't got your project done, or with these AMCs and or Ford, this tool comes with extra stuff like a adapter for Ford. This goes down through your shock tower. Like, you have to take the shock tower thing off and you stick this down, you put the shock tower back on. It hooks to where normally your shock absorber would hook on the upper control arm. And in this case, that also picks up the upper control arm, picks up the spring pivot bushing, which seems to be nobody has them for less than 150 bucks. And what it does is you put your shock tower back on over the top of this, and you got you a thrust washer that'll sit on your shock tower, like my fingers are shock tower. Then the optional thing is this bearing. Now, I highly recommend, if any of you ever get one of these, get the bearing. Just get it, because it goes right here, and that allows this to have pressure, and you can just spin when you put the nut on top of it. And this is a 1.25 inch nut, and that'll sit on that shock tower, and see how that spins in my fingers, but the washer isn't moving. Yeah. And while that's happening, this is hooked to your upper control arm. It's pulling up and constricting, smashing the spring, so to speak. And when you first get to where you don't have any pressure, on the control arm, you're picking it up, then you can loosen the two 9/16 bolts that are in. What are you doing? He's goofy. But you can get the 9/16 bolts off of your coil spring pivot bushing, and that allows you to take then the bolts out of the upper control arm and pull it out. And then you can lower this back down, and that'll allow the spring to get completely open, and then you can take your spring perch and everything off of it and you know, maintenance that however you want. The reason we're taking it all the way off is because I noticed on the passenger side that the actual spring isolator in the top of the tower was smashed. Somebody had taken it apart and put it back wrong, and that was part of my problem. So anyway, I'm gonna go get this. I'll show you a little bit of this and try to get as much video in on this as I can, because I've only found one other video online that does this. So here we go. Okay, so it's a little windy today. I apologize. I'm working on better equipment to handle that wind, so I'm getting there. So I've got the spring compressor tool installed, and I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll bring you in a little bit at a time. Okay, so here it is in the top. I got my shock tower put back down. You can tighten these, you know, as long as it sits here. But there's a washer. There's the pivot bearing right there, and then the nut. Underneath, you put right here. You don't have to tighten them. Just get them where they got enough threads on them that you trust it, you know, on here. And then there's one behind here, and that sucker is a bugger, but you know, it is what it is. We get it. But that attaches all to this. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to bring that bolt down, and that's going to pull this up by this spring perch right here. And once I get that up enough, high enough, I can get to these nuts. I'll pull the nuts off of this spring pivot bushing and the spring perch, and then I can continue on the way up with it as high as I need it to go. You don't need to go real high. As long as you can get the bolts out here, these two, and then just pull this thing out. So that's what we're doing. And I'm going to get to all this. This here, I had both bolts break off in the frame on me last night, and I'm hoping this side that don't happen, because that sucks. And then I got new bushings for this. I got to pull this out while I'm in here. You know, she's bad. So we're going to take care of all this. And yeah, I had this thing all nice and done, but I decided, you know, once you do that side with the good profane, you might as well do them all. So that's why we're pulling it apart. So anyway, so I'm going to screw this down, get that high enough, that spring pulled up high enough, and that will allow me to get the upper control arm off. And I had to change the other upper control arm to another one that I found through one of my sources near Chicago. So back at you in a minute. Okay, so now I've got it, you know, that's about as far as I really need to go, I think, because I got it loose. It's tight still. See how it's good. There's nothing dangerous. It's a lot easier. And now I just got to take these two bolts out, and then this will pop out of there. And then I can show you how you change out into the profane. And then I'm going to lower this back down all the way so I can get this out, so I can get this right up here, that spring isolator up in there. That thing on the other side was completely put in wrong. Matter of fact, I have it right here. This is what was wrong with it. Somebody had put it up in there, and this didn't get set in there right, and this was just smashed down. I mean, it's not dangerous, but it's still, I mean, rattle, thunder clatter, boom, 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 all that stuff, because it's not sitting right. But luckily I caught it. But anyway, I'm gonna get to pulling that off real quick. Get these bolts loose. We'll go from there. Remember how I told you, oh, I'm gonna get this just apart and I'll show you how to, you know, stick the new prothane bushings in. Well, a lot of anger, and 3 hours later I got the upper control arm out. Now this is your upper control arm. I've already put the prophanes in it. Why? Because I was angry and I just wanted to get it done. So what I do is I'll do this. Let's do this. Let me put this down. And I've got another one that I bought with, you know, with the one that I used to replace the bad one. That's this one. Okay. So what I do is I just use my torch. You can use a little torch, you don't need a big one. You heat these suckers up right through here and in here, and it'll melt those down. And then you can just take a screwdriver or a punch or whatever and just push it out. And that leaves this piece here intact, which is, I mean, I think those are attached to this anyway, but you know, just your bushing and all your guts, the rubber and everything comes out of them. But once you do that, then you got to take these little dudes here, and I can show you, but it's, you leave this part out, this part right here, you leave it out, and then you just shove in the new bushing. Okay, you shove in the new bushing this way till it's flush with this right here, and then you grease up that, I guess it'd be the metal bushing, the actual bushing itself, the metal part that goes in the center of the new prothane. You grease that up with the grease they gave you. I highly recommend you use that stuff, as it is not regular grease. And you just shove that in there till she's flush. Done. Why was I angry, and why did it take me 3 hours, 3.5? I don't even know. I lost goddamn count. This bolt right here is already cleaned up, and I had to find a new nut for it, because I had to, basically, it's right here, You can see where it's all wallered out, so that was a problem anyway. So I'm gonna have to figure something out here. But it was so stuck in that old bushing, I couldn't get it out. I heated it, I used a hammer from the back side, I used everything. Finally, I basically got really angry and I used my air hammer. Right here. I got that down through there, fished it through all the brake lines and stuff, and I put that right on the end of that bolt and I just gave it hell. Came out. Luckily I didn't ruin the bolt. I could clean it up. Did ruin the nut. You can see right there, it's ruined because I was trying it from both sides, trying to push it and couldn't get it to go. So anyway, now let's start taking this coil spring out, taking the other stuff out, and I'll bring you in and let you see how I do it. All right, I already did go ahead while I was waiting on my air compressor to do its 15-minute charge. I did go ahead and get these on, and it's the same process, except this one, these control arms were loose at the bushing. So I used my awesome welding skills and I did that right there just to give it a little bit of a tack, and then you can see where those push through, and then this goes on, and then there's that little cap. This little cap is to go so it don't move, so you can take these off. That's the bushing and everything in there, and it's pushed in a little further, and then this goes on the other side to make sure nothing moves. That's the point of this. You don't want movement. I'd have to do the same thing to the other side. So anyway, that's ready. Now we're going to get this damn spring down. So you already see me pull it up. Same process. You just back it off until she's loose, and then you take it out. So all right, 3 hours later, let's go. Okay, so unscrewed her all the way down so she's loose. She popped apart. I just leave that hanging there. It ain't hurting nothing. I found this thing to be full of dirt and other shit, and I dug it all out, blew it out, cleaned it out. Then I hit it with the old, you know, rust preventative stuff that I use all the time. I've been using it for years. A lot of people, you know, it's not a fix. It's a, you know, it helps. And then I'll paint it once it's dry. I'll have to wait a little bit. This came out. I didn't have any problems with that. Thank God. I thought that was going to be my biggest problem. It ended up being this friggin' bolt. And you can see it's wallered out pretty good. So I'm gonna have to put a little bit bigger washer on there. That way it sits up against, you know, and collapses that bushing, the insert. I'm fed up, so I'm just gonna get it going. I'm getting it on the road. I'm done. So I'm just waiting for this stuff to dry. And what did I do with it? Here it is. So here's the other spring isolator. Again, it was put in wrong. See how it was here, and then it was sitting right on that. It wasn't in there right. You got to be real careful when you put those in. Make sure, you know, it's set up to where the spring, this should go inside. All this goes inside this spring housing, you moron. But yeah, it should be inside it, not halfway in, halfway out. That's, you know, you got to put them in there right. So anywho, I'm just gonna sit here and watch this dry, maybe have me a barley water while I'm sitting here. That took a long time, and my frustration gets worse as we go. So probably need a break, have me a beer. I'll catch you back here in a little bit. I will never work on another AMC as long as I live. I shouldn't say that. I won't say never. Sorry about the wind. I'm getting things back together. I got the spring compressed back up so I can get the upper control arm back in. I am going to have to do something about this one side. but I want to get at least one bolt in, and I can show you what it looks like, half on, half off. But yeah, so I haven't got these pushed all the way up in yet, and there's some grease. That's nice. But I just, you know, redone it without the clamps, those stupid clamps. That was all because they didn't have it set right. It's all because they didn't have it set right. It should be just fine. That's not how you make something lower. It's just dumb. But I got the new ones in there. I'm just gonna lightly tap them up in there. Use a mallet, rubber mallet, and you don't tap it right here. It's mostly right in here and right in here. That just kind of nicely shoves that back up in there, and you can use a bolt or a punch or whatever. Line your holes up from the top. It'll, you know, you can suck them in. So I did get this put on, a new bump stop. Those came out just fine. The other side, one of them stripped, and I just left it. And then we'll get to this, which I'm still amazed that one of these didn't break off, because that was a whole nother thing I may show you anyway. But I do have my new torsion bar is put together. It's right there. I had to heat some stuff up and get that one right, but I think we're going to be good to go. I'm going to bounce this up in there, and then we drop this down into these holes, line them up, put the nuts on, top end's done. So let's go. Hands are super dirty, but I got it. This little tool did its trick. It did what it's supposed to do. This is all back together, screwed in tight. Spring looks great. It's in its seats perfect. Hey, we got a rebuilt front end. Let's put her back together. Oh, let me get my flashlight in your face. This job should have been done easily 3-4 days ago. All it takes is some broken bolts, and I could have had this done in any other car. I would have had this done in a matter of 2 hours. It would have been done. That's how quick this was going to go. But no, it was one bolt on that side that messed with me, one bolt on this side that messed with me. Other than that, it just together like nothing. I mean, really. But anyway, I gotta get this thingy bob lower control arm needs to go in there first, get it set up and on, and then I'll paint it when it gets up in there. So I'll be right back with you. Put her all the way back for now. There. You just tight, not tight, just tight. Okay, so bottom is on, just like so. It's on there. So yeah, I'm running around with this thing. I'm just gonna share the test. Done for now. If something else decides to. But I can show you. I haven't painted it yet. She's all together. New bushings in. This all gets done in alignment because this is going to get aligned. I got the brakes all back on. That's unfortunate, but I don't care. And I need to bleed the brakes and yada, yada, yada. And then I need to paint it. I did paint back behind there and rust done it and all that crap, but I checked and that sucker is in there perfect. That was not like that before. Everything is pretty strong to be, I guess, ish. I don't like how those go in, the profane, the actual sway arm bushing. I don't like that at all. Matter of fact, I'll be looking for something to replace them with at some point. Oh, there's one of my holes. But anyway, this all gets done. I got that tightened up for now. But this don't get really tightened. I'm not until it's, you know, sitting on the ground and get some things. Once it's on the ground, then you can do it. But it'd be easier if it was on like a rack or something like that whenever they're gonna align it. So okay. Other than I'm waiting on my shock absorbers. This front end is done. This thing, I knew the wiring was going to be a nightmare, but oh my God. 2 bolts. 2 little bolts cost me nearly 8 hours of work. 2 bolts. And there was no way around what I had to do. And I thought I was going to have to replace a bunch of stuff because I used that air hammer, but nope. I got lucky there, but whatever. Okay. I hope you had fun. I sure didn't. I'm not sure I can get up. So thank you for watching. Tomorrow's another day, I guess. Please subscribe, like, notifications, all that stuff. I got a lot more to do. We got to do the floor yet. So here we go. You guys stay safe. Take care of yourself.